And now, the star of the show, Jordan Rogozinski.
Hello folks, welcome back to the Jordan 411 Sports Show, and today we have the host of the Winnipeg Blue Bomber post-game and pre-game show, Darrin Bauming, with us, and he's also with Troy Westwood and Triff Wolby. Welcome, Darrin, to the
Jordan.
show.
Appreciate it.
And since Bomber Rookie Camp is starting tomorrow on May 16th, who will you be looking out for to open your eyes tomorrow?
That's a good question to start things off. Everybody's excited about mini camp that went by and rookie camp that leads in to training camp, but I always kind of call it like the first day of school. Everybody's excited, everybody's a little bit nervous, and to answer your question, I'm probably going to be watching the receivers, because that's one area Matt Nichols, the Bombers quarterback, would like some help in. They added a Darrin Bauming, you have Weston Dressler and Darvin Adams, Nick Dembski, the Winnipegger, of course, coming back to his home team, the team he watched growing up, and it's who of those new guys is going to kind of jump off the page and make themselves a professional.
I think Bowman will look a good input in goal.
Absolutely, once
that
again.
That was solid.
Yeah, and what I really like about that is he's going back to his old number. So
Yeah.
all those people that have their Darrin Bauming jerseys in their closet, they can wear that number 12.
I
again.
actually got my number changed.
Did you?
I had Ryan Smith, but since he retired,
There you go.
Number change.
Get a new name bar.
And now we're going to move to another pressing topics, the middle linebacker position.
Yes, that's of course got everybody excited about the Blue Bombers season this year, and some concern, maybe some excitement. They're hoping somebody can be the new middle linebacker and win that job. There's a handful of guys. Kyrie Wilson and Javaris Jones were on this team last year, and Kyrie Wilson might have a bit of a head start as far as learning the Canadian game and winning that position. And then you have Quentin Gause. He's a player that played a few games for the Denver Broncos in the NFL, and they're hoping he can be somebody that provides some competition and somebody. Who's the next superstar in this Blue Bombers defense to play middle linebacker, right?
And DBs are another one to watch. Who are you most excited to watch out of that group?
I want to see Chandler Fenner. That was the big free agent signing the Blue Bombers made back in February. He's supposed to be a very versatile athlete, can play safety, halfback, cornerback, play that strong side linebacker position. They call it the dime back. A very dynamic athlete and a big special teams player as well.
With Fenner, Park, and Gator having played together, you think that will help the Bombers?
It might. When it comes to defensive backs, all 5 or 6 of them in the backfield together and watching quarterbacks and the way offenses are attacking them, to know where each of them are, where their teammate is, can help a lot. So that might be the case. I think you're onto something.
Do you think it was just a communication error last year, or what was it?
It might have been. Yeah, it might have been communication. It might have just been the way the Blue Bombers defense is built. We know they love to take the ball away, right? 101 takeaways over the last 2 seasons, but a lot of yards against. So they got to find that delicate balance. Mike O'Shea says he wants to be more involved in the defense on a day-to-day basis.
Which I think is good.
I think it's a great thing. When you got a mind like Mike O'Shea's with Richie Hall and then some new defensive coaches they hired this year, they're hoping to kind of find that Goldilocks, I like to call it. Not too hot, not too cold. Find that nice warm middle area.
Like Jordan Younger, man.
Exactly.
He used to hit hard.
Yeah, he was a heck of a player.
I remember that hit on Charles Roberts, man. I still watch it to this day.
You got a better memory than I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In 2008 or 2007, I think that was.
How about that?
Now we're gonna go into broadcasting. How early are you there for your pregame show?
Oh, I get there pretty early. I get there maybe 2 or 3 hours before we begin the show on air. Just to kind of settle in. I like to relax. I like to make sure I'm comfortable. And then, of course, preparation is everything, Jordan. As long as you're prepared, you go into a show feeling comfortable. You know the questions you're going to ask. You know the interview audio you're going to run. And you know my co-hosts, Chris Walby and Troy Westwood, of course, as you mentioned, know what they want to talk about, and I make sure I shape the program around them. Nobody wants to hear from me.
No.
They want to hear from the Hall of Famers, Chris Walby and Troy Westwood, so I make sure they're on point and get to their
Do you
topics.
text them but during the weekend?
Absolutely.
Kind of what's hot right now and talk about that?
Often I just text them to ask them questions. I ask Troy what he thinks of what he saw during the week or in the last game. I ask Chris Walby about football. I've learned so much from him, of course, being the legendary football player he is, but I also ask him a lot about broadcasting, because something a lot of people quickly forget is that he's called 10 Grey Cups on television. So he has so much experience, yes, in football and how the X's and O's work, but then also in broadcasting. So I like to pick his brain about those things too.
What's the number one thing you talk about football?
Chris Walby? Oh, wow. Probably just how offenses work. You know, sometimes some of those the lingo that coaches will throw out there about, zone schemes and all these kind of intricate X's and O's things. It's kind of boring for some people, but I've enjoyed learning some of those, more intricate parts of the game.
Like Lapo does a good job.
Absolutely. He's a great coach.
He motions people around like I don't even know what he's doing.
Well, we always, I like to refer to it as kind of his, Mr. Dress Up Tickle Trunk. You never know what kind of surprise he's going to pull out of there.
Yeah.
Very creative.
And Medlock had a bit of a struggling year towards the end. Do you think he'll bounce back?
I do. I think Justin Medlock has more talent than maybe any kicker in the history of Canadian football. He's just so good and so natural, and something I think a lot of people don't see because they just kind of see him rolled out there for a couple field goals every game. He's one of the most tireless workers there is. He's there first thing in the morning. Sometimes when I show up to practice early, he's already on the field kicking the football and trying different things. He works so hard at his craft that he's going to continue to be as good as he has been.
And Mike O'Shea actually convinced him because he wanted to go into medical. Do you think that would show what type of coach that is to convince a player to give it one more shot?
I think Mike O'Shea is a great example of somebody who had a long playing career, loved playing the game like I imagine Justin Medlock does and a lot of others. And he probably just expressed to Justin, once you stop playing, that's it. There's no going back. So enjoy it while you can. Maybe make it last as long as you can, because we know, people like, you and me, how lucky are they to be in the position they are to play pro sports. So take it in while you can and enjoy it while you got it.
And speaking about quarterbacks, how's Matt Nichols, talking to him and seeing him practice and around the field? How's he?
I like Matt Nichols a lot. He's a really good quarterback. He's a really even better person. You can tell just in talking to different athletes when you talk to one where that they love what they do. Matt Nichols is one of those people. You can tell he shows up to work every day not thinking it's a job and it's work, that he wants to be there and he wants to get better.
He was there 3 hours early.
Yeah,
Is
he likes
that
to get
correct?
there 5 in the morning, something like that.
5 in the morning?
Yeah, it's crazy. That's dedication. That's why he's as good as he is.
Yeah. Speaking on quarterbacks, who will be our new number 2 with Darrin departing?
Yeah, that's a good question. Obviously, Darian Durant dropping a bomb on the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, no pun intended, but he did drop a bomb on them in announcing his retirement. So the Blue Bombers are left with a couple relatively unproven players. There's Chris Streveler from the University of South Dakota. He's brand new to professional football, was playing in the NCAA last year, Division II, and has a lot of great tools. Big guy. He looks like a defensive end, and he can throw the football really well. But it's probably going to be Alex Ross. He played last year sparingly with the BC Lions, and they're hoping he can take that next step and prove that he can be consistent.
With the relatively new quarterback, you think Matt Nichols will help him and Buck Pierce, their quarterback coach, will kind of mentor him?
Absolutely. That's an interesting part of the game of football I really enjoy, is that while you're teammates, it's always competition. You're always battling with your teammate in practice and in the meeting room, because competition makes people better. If there's somebody pushing you, you're like, wow, look at the work he's doing. I got to do more work to make sure I'm on top of my game. They always, there's that competition, Jordan, they also really want to help each other because they know for the betterment of the team, it's better for the individual. So you're right. Buck Pierce, Paul LaPolice, Matt Nichols, they're all going to help the young guys coming in.
How is it to have a quarterback and have all these great quarterbacks and know that we have Matt and know we have a possibility to win the Grey Cup?
Well, yeah, quarterback's everything, right?
Yeah.
You need a good quarterback. You need two good quarterbacks. We've seen that with a lot of teams. We've seen it with when Edmonton won the Grey Cup here in Winnipeg. They needed two quarterbacks that season. The Ottawa Redblacks needed two quarterbacks. Ricky Ray, how old is he? Nearly 40, right?
40.
Well, he somehow stayed healthy all year, and Toronto was able to win a championship.
Trefman had a big part in
Absolutely, he did.
Yeah.
But then what did they do this past offseason? They went and got James Franklin, a great number 2 quarterback, somebody who's probably going to be a star in this league. Everybody knows you need two good quarterbacks to win.
How's that Salmon Eyes looking, your 12th overall pick?
Yeah, you asked me what I'm excited about in rookie camp this week, starting on Wednesday, and Rashawn Simonides is one of those guys. He's just somebody I got to watch and call. When I called the University of Manitoba Bison's football games, he would come with the University of Calgary Dinos, and he was so good. Big, fast, strong, and just gifted athletically. At 12th overall in the draft, I think Kyle Walters might have unearthed a gem there. Might be the steal of the draft. I'm looking forward to watching him.
Okay. For those American receivers, what's the hardest thing to learn in your eyes?
They always say...
Other than the wagon.
Yes, they always say it's the waggle, right? But that's probably the most foreign thing compared to the type of football they play, 11-man in the States and 12-man up here. But I think it's that extra player on the field. It's knowing where everybody is. When we watch football, a lot of people watch football, they'll watch a receiver run down the field and they think he's just got his individual job. But they also have to know where everybody else is and what everybody else's job is. So I think learning that extra player on the field and just how defenses work in Canadian football, because it's really different.
And that's why film's important in football. And I think the Bombers have prepared very well in these past couple of years in their game plans.
Preparation is everything. I was talking about preparation for our show, for broadcasting. Football players probably prepare 3 times as much as we do because you never know what your opponent is going to bring. So you have to make sure you're ready for whatever they throw at you.
Speaking of broadcasting, what would you give a person like me who wants to follow in broadcasting footsteps? Any advice?
I would give the same advice to somebody who wanted to be a journalist, a writer, a broadcaster, a play-by-play person. Anybody, I would give them the same advice, and that's to read as much as you can and read different types of things. The more you read, the more knowledge you gather from all of that literature that you go through, but you also learn about the different ways people speak. Some people might present one way versus another, and different voices are used in telling stories and in telling the news. So the more you read and the more different authors you read and books and articles that you read, I think it kind of just opens your eyes. It broadens your spectrum as far as how people do those sorts of things.
And speaking with the broadcasting, what if reading's a challenge for you? Then what else can you do instead of that?
On top of reading?
Yeah.
Practice.
Practice.
Just like anything, right?
Do it.
Yeah, do it. You do this show. This is great practice. It's when I do my show, I think of it every day as practice. You always want to get better, and then go back and you can listen to yourself. It's sometimes hard to do, because you're like, oh, did I really say that, or do I sound like that? But if you can go back at times and find things you said and think of better ways you could have approached a question or a better way you could have approached a response, it can make you better.
Speaking, we're going to go to the Jets. How was the atmosphere at the beginning of the game?
It's so cool. Every game this whole playoffs has been amazing. That first game against the Minnesota Wild was really amped up excitement because it was the first game of the playoffs, and everyone was just excited for the Winnipeg Jets to be back in it. But then suddenly they win that series, and then they beat Nashville in 7 games, and now it's almost a different level of excitement because people are thinking, this team can win the Stanley Cup. Can you imagine what would happen to this city if they won the Stanley Cup?
I think it would shut down.
Yeah, it probably
Nobody
would shut down.
would go to work.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it'll be a pretty great thing. So that excitement seems to almost increase every single game. It's tough. They lost last night, but you know what's going to happen? Sunday afternoon, they're going to have a 2 o'clock game here in Winnipeg, and people are going to be just as excited as they were in Game 1.
Yeah. How is it, like, I went to the street party last night. Do you experience that, or are you mostly inside?
I usually work. I'm usually working all the games. I think I've maybe missed 10 Winnipeg Jets home games since they've come back.
Good.
But when I don't have to work, I really enjoy just being able to watch the games as a fan with my friends and take it in like that. That's the balance between being an objective reporter and making sure that you're not slanted when you cover a team, but also stepping back from your job, being a human being, and just being a sports fan, as I have been my whole life, and just watching the game with my friends, my loved ones, and that's my favorite thing to do.
Who did you look up to when you used to watch sports?
Yeah, that's a great question. I grew up a big fan of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. I played football, and Bob Irving was always somebody I looked up to. I still look up to Bob because he is so good at what he does, and he's just a legend in his craft. I look up to a lot of American broadcasters, Al Michaels. Kevin Harlan is one of my favorites. He does TV once in a while, but he normally does radio. He's just such a great play-by-play man. He just theater of the mind, they call it, right? Okay. You can close your eyes, listen to him, and he paints the picture. It's as if you can see it in your mind.
Who was the top 5 British bombers of all time?
Top 5 bombers of all time? Yeah. Oh wow, you're putting me on the spot. I don't know if I'm going to get the 5 right, but I'll tell you maybe my 5 favorite.
Yeah. 5 favorite.
Of course, there's one of your all-star guests on this show, Milt Stegall.
Yeah.
Absolutely in the top 5. I think Matt Dunnigan is one of my favorites just because of that one big game he had and the success this team, the Blue Bombers, had when he was the quarterback, but throwing for 713 yards on 7/14, July 14th, was pretty cool. Charles Roberts was probably my favorite player growing up. I loved watching Blake.
I love how small he was.
Exactly.
No running back. I almost said quarterback.
Yeah.
No running back.
Yeah.
Is that small no more. Like, look at him, for example.
That's right.
He's not that small.
That's right, and it proves it doesn't matter how you're built or what tools you have in your tool belt. You find a way to make it work, and then Charles Roberts was a great example of that. And then for my last 2, I'll do a little bit of a sellout, Jordan, but I'll say Troy Westwood, because special teams are important. I'll put him in my top 5, and then, of course, the best offensive lineman to ever play in the CFL, that's Chris Welby.
I'm sure he'll like that.
Of course.
He'll laugh at that when he sees this. For all the Bomber fans out there that don't really know what you do on game day, how would you describe your show?
Oh wow, my pre and post game show?
Yeah.
Well, I guess, we just try to educate the fan base. What's important to know and to watch for when they're watching the game? So we have a 2-hour pregame show, and I try to just let them know, who's playing, who's not playing, what their opponent brings, their strengths, their weaknesses, how Winnipeg might, try to counter them, and ultimately just set them up for the game. We do a little bit at halftime, break down what happened in the first half, talk about what we want to see in the second half for the Blue Bombers, and then the post-game show, we try to just kind of digest it all, break it all down, and collect everything that we saw happen, and surmise it for everybody.
How about the callers that call in? Is that a different experience?
Absolutely, yeah, because you never know what you're going to get, right? You got a fan. Yeah. Sometimes they can be really excited. Sometimes they can be really mad.
Yeah.
Or happy. You never know what you're going to get, but they always have good questions, and I enjoy taking calls after the game. It's always fun.
For people that don't know where you do your post and pregame show, mostly for me, because I'm curious. So where do you do it at the Bomber Stadium?
We do it right in our studios at TSN 1290.
So you don't actually go to the game?
No, because that comes down to broadcast rights. Now that's the next level of learning about broadcasting and who pays the dollars to play the games. Of course, Bob gets to call those games on the other station, and we have to do it from outside the stadium. But once in a while, we get a chance to go to the games and take those games in. But that's why I love going to practice, because that's my opportunity to watch football in person.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you're not working, what do you typically do at a Bomber game? Like, what section do you sit in?
Oh, I usually don't get to sit in the stands.
Don't
Yeah,
get to
I'll go
sit?
sit in the press box, and I'll take on that same opportunity as working. But the Jets games, once in a while, I'll get to go as a fan and go with my friends and sit in section 202. And,
Do you eat?
Of course, yes. You ever had a Jet dog?
Yeah, I think expensive though.
They are expensive.
They're good.
Yeah, I haven't had one in a couple of years, but you know what's really good on the Jets dog? It's a little bit of a secret. Pierogies. They put just pierogi. You don't put any ketchup or nothing. Just the pierogies on the hot dog. Super good.
What's your favorite food, speaking of food?
Oh, wow. My favorite food. I like tacos.
Tacos.
Fish tacos.
High five. That's
right.
my favorite.
Tacos are the best, right? You can put almost anything you want
Anything.
on them.
You can do even fish tacos, salmon.
Yep.
Whatever, lamb or whatever.
Yep. Shawarma's probably right there next
Yeah, warm-up's pretty good. That's what we did for Steele.
Yep. Oh, nice.
We catered for my end, thanks to Albie Khan.
Yeah. Well, Milt's a tough man to feed because he's got such a strict diet, right?
Yeah, he was tough. It took some planning.
Absolutely.
Well, then, we gotta go, and good luck to the season, and hope the Bombers go out and go blue.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Jordan. This was tons of fun. Enjoy the season.
I will.
Please like and subscribe to Jordan's YouTube channel and follow him on Twitter.